The letter arrived on a Tuesday. A plain white envelope, no return address. Just the stiff black stamp of the Homeowners Association. Sarah Thompson opened it with one hand while sipping iced tea in the sweltering July heat. A bead of condensation slid down the glass as her eyes scanned the letter and froze. You are hereby ordered to drain your swimming pool within 72 hours, or face escalating fines of $500 per day. She read it twice, then again. Her throat went dry. The pool had been there for 5 years. Installed professionally, inspected, approved. They even had the original permits filed with the HOA. When they first moved in, it wasn't just up to code, it was a jewel of the neighborhood. Kids splashed there every summer. Neighbors gathered on weekends. It was, in many ways, the beating heart of their little corner of Crestwood Pines. Now it was unauthorized. No way, Sarah muttered, heading inside with the letter. Absolutely not. Her husband, Dave, was in the garage working on their bikes when she showed him the letter. He squinted, then let out a low whistle. This has to be a mistake. She shook her head. I don't think it is. That evening, Sarah called the HOA office. A recorded message looped. All inquiries will be reviewed in the order received. Leave a message. She did, 3 times. No response. The website had changed too. The familiar homepage with board member photos had been replaced by a sterile login screen, requiring new credentials. The next morning, she stopped by her neighbor Ellen's house. Ellen was already on her porch, holding a letter of her own. There, saying my rose bushes are obstructing the walkway, Ellen said, voice trembling. That's not even in the regulations. Sarah frowned. What regulations? Ellen's eyes darkened. Exactly. The neighborhood was buzzing by the end of the day. One house had a dumpster out front, mandatory landscaping remediation. Another was ordered to remove a privacy fence that had stood since 1998. Nobody could reach the board. The old HOA president, Mr. Jacobs, was apparently on leave, and in his place was a name Sarah had never heard before, Brent Keller. She looked him up online. Nothing, no social media, no LinkedIn, not even a digital footprint from the HOA's own newsletters. It was like he appeared from nowhere. The next day, the first fine arrived. $500 directly withdrawn from their escrowed HOA reserve account. Sarah nearly choked when she saw it. That night, after the kids were asleep, Sarah sat on the edge of the pool still full. Sparkling in the moonlight, tan scrolled through the HOA bylaws. They had downloaded years ago. The water shimmered beside her, so quiet, so peaceful. Yet it now felt like a target. The section on pool regulations hadn't changed. But then something odd caught her eye, a clause she remembered about approved structures. Being protected under previous board rulings was simply gone. Vanished. Like it never existed. She checked the PDF's metadata. Last modified 2 weeks ago. But that couldn't be. HOA documents were only editable by board vote, and no vote had taken place, at least. Not a public one. Sarah stood up, heart thudding. A single thought had settled in her mind and refused to leave. Someone was rewriting the rules, and no one was stopping them. The water lapped softly at the edge of the pool, reflecting moonlight like glass. But to Sarah, it didn't feel like a place of rest anymore. It felt like a crime scene in progress. And somewhere behind closed doors, someone had already started phase 1. By the end of the week, it was no longer just about the Thompsons' pool. On Thursday morning, Sarah opened her front door to find a thick yellow paper stuck under the handle. Notice of violation. This time, the offense was non-compliant trash bin storage. Her bins had been placed in the same corner of the side yard since they moved in. Now, apparently, That was against regulation. To doors down, Ellen Daniels was out on her porch, in a robe, sobbing into her phone. Her violation, unauthorized vegetation obstruction. Her roses, the ones she'd planted with her late husband 30 years ago. By mid-afternoon, 5 more houses had bright yellow papers fluttering in the wind. Something was wrong. Deeply, methodically wrong. Sarah grabbed her keys and drove to the HOA office, just off Crestwood Circle, a modest brick building tucked between a shuttered bank and a tax service. The usual receptionist desk was gone, replaced by a glass security door and a buzzer system. When she pressed the button, a robotic voice crackled through the intercom. "State your business." "I'm a homeowner," Sarah said. "I need to speak with someone about a violation notice." "Leave a message through the portal," the voice replied. "Appointments are by invitation only." Then silence. She stood there for a moment, stunned, before stepping back. Behind the tinted glass, she caught the faintest movement, the silhouette of a man watching her from behind a half-closed blind. That night, the neighborhood message board lit up. Someone posted a picture of a car being towed from a driveway. Another had their mailbox cited for non-standard design. The kicker? It was the exact model the HOA recommended 5 years ago. More chilling was the message from Glenn at the corner lot. "They find me from my porch light. Said it exceeded brightness regulations. My wife has epilepsy. It's a medical light. I sent proof. They don't care." Something about this felt rehearsed, coordinated, weaponized. Sarah tried logging into the HOA portal. Her account was locked. Her next move was checking the archived HOA bylaws she'd downloaded the year prior. She compared them line by line with the current online version. Whole paragraphs had been removed, others rewritten in vague, sweeping language, words like unharmonious, subjective review, executive discretion. Then she spotted it. Amendments enacted May 28, 2025. Board consensus recorded. That date was 2 weeks ago. No community vote. No notice. Nothing. She scrolled down to see who signed the consensus. Brent Keller, Danica Ray, Secretary DG, initials only. The names meant little to her, and a quick search revealed even less. These people had no online presence, not on Facebook, not in county voting records. Nothing. Like they didn't exist outside of Crestwood Pines. The next morning, the HOA emailed a newsletter, first one in months. The subject line read, "Maintaining order, a cleaner, safer Crestwood." It listed common violations, thanked residents for cooperation, and ended with a final line, "Those who adapt will thrive. Those who resist will be removed." Sarah reread it 3 times. Removed. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Stop stirring up neighbors. You've been warned." She sat down slowly, knuckles white on the phone screen. They weren't just rewriting the rules. They were enforcing a new regime. It started with a sound barely audible, like an electric wasp in the distance. At first, Sarah thought it was her neighbor's leaf blower. But it was late past midnight and the buzz didn't fade. She slipped out of bed, pulled back the bedroom curtain, and froze. A drone. Small, black, and hovering silently above her backyard. Its lights blinked red and green as it pivoted slowly, almost lazily, over the pool. Then it tilted upward toward her window. She jumped back. "Dave," she whispered, shaking her husband awake. "There's a drone outside." "What?" he mumbled, then sat up. "What kind of drone?" "The kind that's watching us." He ran downstairs, grabbed his flashlight, and stormed out the back door. The drone zipped up and away, disappearing into the night like a metal hornet. By the time he got outside, it was gone. The next day, they found a small gray tag stuck in the hedges. It looked like it had broken off mid-flight. There were 2 words stamped into the plastic in tiny font. Crestwood enforcements brought it inside, took pictures, and uploaded it to the neighborhood message board. The post was deleted within 5 minutes. That afternoon, she visited Ellen Daniels again, only this time, no one answered. The porch was swept clean. The rose bushes were gone. The curtains inside drawn tightly. A fresh for sale sign stood crooked in the lawn. Sarah's chest tightened. She'd just spoken to Ellen 2 days ago. The woman had been frightened, yes, but not planning to move, not without saying goodbye. The real estate listing, already live online, described the home as vacant and ready for immediate showing. The date, posted the night before. That evening, Sarah got a text from Glenn at the corner lot. "I caught someone in my yard again." Said they were HOA surveyors. Took pics of my kid's swing set and left. No ID. Nothing. Another message followed 10 minutes later from a different neighbor. "I saw 2 guys wearing vests snooping behind my shed. Said they were monitoring potential violations. Who gave them permission?" Sarah's gut told her the truth. No one did. By morning, more drone sightings had surfaced. Residents posted videos until they were mysteriously flagged and taken down. Even private Facebook groups saw posts disappear in real time. Someone was watching. Sarah called the police to report the drone over her property. The dispatcher put her on hold. When she was transferred, a dry male voice answered. "Crestwood. Compliance operates autonomously. You'll need to take this up with your HOA." She hadn't mentioned Crestwood. "How did you?" she began. But the line went dead. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her pool, once a joyful escape, now felt like bait. She stared at its dark, rippling surface, unable to shake the feeling that it was no longer hers. That none of this was. Her phone vibrated just past 2 a.m. A new text. No number. No preview. She unlocked it, heart pounding. She didn't move. She was moved. "You're next if you don't stop asking questions, DG." She sat frozen in bed, hands shaking. The initials matched one of the board signatures she'd seen on the amendment file. DG, her breath caught as she looked out the window again. Not one drone this time. Both hovering still and silent over the yard. Watching. By now, Sarah's mornings began with a routine she never imagined. Check the yard. Look for new violation slips. Sweep for drones. Confirm the kids were safe. And always check the front porch for strange deliveries. That Thursday, one arrived, a plain cardboard box. No return address. Light enough to carry with one hand. She didn't open it inside. She brought it to the garage, locked the door, and opened it with a pair of scissors. Inside, wrapped in layers of bubble wrap, was a single USB flash drive. No markings. Just a sticker on one side that read, "For your eyes only, stop him." Her hands trembled as she slid the drive into her old laptop, one she kept offline just in case. The files inside were messy. Scans of paperwork, PDFs, audio recordings labeled with dates, photos of board meeting notes taken through glass windows, and one folder simply labeled Keller. She opened it. Her breath caught. Brent Keller, if that was even his real name, had used to other identities in the past decade. One in a Colorado HOA scandal that ended in 3 bankruptcies and an accidental house fire. Another in Arizona, where he vanished after a class action suit was mysteriously dropped. Same face, different names, different towns, but always the same MO. Wreck a neighborhood, funnel the reserves, collapse the community, disappear. The files traced the scheme: inflated violation fines, forged contractor invoices, fake consulting companies billed monthly. One of them stopped Sarah cold. Marble Rock Development LLC. She recognized the address. It was her address. That's when her stomach dropped. According to the HOA financial report included in the drive, Marble Rock had received $14,000 over the past 3 months for engineering services. She felt like she was going to throw up. Whoever was behind this had used her property as a shell location. If it went public, she could be tied to the theft, to the fraud. It would ruin them. Sarah ran a reverse lookup on the field's sender metadata. The document trail led to an IP block linked to a nearby Wi-Fi hotspot inside Crestwood itself. Someone close was leaking this. She was about to dig deeper when a soft chime echoed from the kitchen. The front door had opened. She froze. Dave was at work. The kids were at school. She shut the laptop, killing the screen just as the garage door creaked. Footsteps, not rushed, not loud. Calm, deliberate. Sarah grabbed a wrench from the tool bench and ducked behind the mower. More footsteps. A creak of the garage stairs. Then silence. She held her breath. Her phone vibrated. Stop digging. You're being watched. HOA compliance. A minute later, the door shut. By the time she ran into the house, nothing was missing. Nothing was moved. But she knew someone had been there. Someone had crossed the line. She called Dave, told him everything. He didn't even hesitate. We're not backing down. This isn't just us anymore. That night, they sent the drive to 5 trusted neighbors. By morning, 50 people had it, and the first whispers of rebellion began to stir. By Monday, the neighborhood was no longer afraid. They were angry. The flash drive had worked like wildfire. It passed from inbox to inbox, hand to hand copied, shared, printed in secret. Photos of Keller in other towns. Financial records showing the HOA's misused reserve fund. Videos of unmarked trucks towing cars in the dead of night. All tied back to fake companies created by Brent Keller and DG. And then the real twist hit. Danica Ray, the supposed board secretary, didn't exist. The county registrar had no birth record, no voter ID, not even a DMV trace. Her photo used in newsletters was AI generated, traced back to a stock image database. The board was a front. Keller was the only real person. Sarah sat in her backyard with Dave, Glenn from the corner lot, and Marisol, a retired paralegal who had once taken on city council corruption and won. The group called themselves the Underground Committee. Their goal, dig deeper, go louder, and strike back. We don't play by their rules anymore, Marisol said, flipping through a printed copy of the HOA bylaw revisions. Because these aren't legal. This is a fraud in motion. I say, we go public, Glenn added. Take this to the news, county officials, the state. We will, Sarah said. But first, we need to cut off the head. And they had a plan. That evening, the group organized the first silent meeting. No phones, no internet, just paper notes passed in the old community garden shed, with one neighbor posted outside as lookout. The next day, signs started appearing small. Handwritten messages in chalk on sidewalks, mailboxes, even under trash can lids. We see you. Keller, not our HOA. No more silence. Phase 1 ends. Now, the messages didn't last long. By noon, every single one had been washed off or torn down. But new ones took their place. Bigger. Bolder. Marisol drafted an anonymous letter and mailed it to every homeowner. Your dues are funding a con. Your violations are manufactured. The board is not real. You've been tricked, and together, we will take Crestwood back. That night, the drones returned. 5 of them, they zipped through the neighborhood, hovering over homes for longer periods now. Watching, logging, recording. But the residents had learned. One neighbor used a high-powered laser pointer to fry the lens on one drone. Another set out a dummy mannequin in a lawn chair with a toy rifle slung over its shoulder, drawing the drone and then caught it with a net. By morning, 2 drones had been captured, stripped, examined. Inside, Glenn found something no one expected: a small receiver chip linked to a private satellite uplink, one accessible only through an encrypted server hosted outside of state jurisdiction. This wasn't just surveillance. It was military-grade tech. Marisol, pale-faced. Put it together. He's got connections, deep ones. This isn't some washed-up common. Keller's part of something bigger. But why here? Dave asked. Why our neighborhood? Sarah looked up, eyes fierce. Because we were easy, comfortable, compliant. Not anymore. The residents organized shifts to watch each other's homes. They blacked out windows, jammed signals, used burners for communication. Teenagers who once rode scooters now passed messages like Cold War couriers. Elderly couples manned walkie-talkies through the night. And then, something cracked. A whistleblower. An anonymous email arrived at Sarah's inbox. He's panicking. Meeting tomorrow. 8 p.m. Crestwood HOA office. Only one guard. Use the side entrance. I've left the door open. No name. Just a friend inside Crestwood had never seen a night so tense. At exactly 7:45 p.m. Sarah pulled up a block away from the HOA office, headlights off. She wore black. Her hair tied back, phone left behind. No tracking. No risk. Dave and Glenn followed in a separate car. Marisol stayed behind at Command Glenn's garage where 5 neighbors monitored walkie chatter, ready to alert the group if anything went wrong. Sarah crossed the street under cover of a hedge line. The HOA building sat silent, half its lights off, just like the whistleblower said. A lone SUV idled in the back alley. Its windows were blacked out. She slipped to the side entrance. It was cracked open an inch, just enough. She waited, breath caught in her throat. Then, a soft click. A sticky note fluttered just inside the door. Room to be. Hurry, FI. Inside, the office was sterile and cold. Gone were the motivational HOA posters and coffee station from a year ago. Everything was stripped down. Metal filing cabinets. Surveillance monitors. Laptops with red-tinted screens showing real-time. Drone feeds. She crept down the hall to room to be and paused. Voices. She leaned in. Not going to survive this, a man whispered. They've traced the dummy account to Marble Rock. If she flips this public, another voice. Cold and flat. Then she disappears. Like Daniels. Sarah's heart dropped. They'd admitted it. They'd done something to Ellen. She pushed. The door opened suddenly. The room fell silent. Brent Keller sat at the head of the conference table, face lit by a single desk lamp. A man in a black windbreaker stood near the back, arms crossed, stunned. Both turned to her. Then the third figure in the room stood. A woman. Her face flickered in the low light. Danica Ray. Real. You're supposed to be I, Sarah said coldly. Danica smirked. That was the plan. Keller recovered quickly, folding his hands. So, you're the face of the rebellion. You're the face of a criminal. Sarah snapped. He stood. Sarah, you think you're righteous. But we were trying to perfect something here. Order. Control, no chaos, no lawsuits. No graffiti on fences. And now, you're bleeding this community dry? Danica stepped forward. This place was dying. We revived it. The rules you hate. They keep neighborhoods like this from turning into chaos. Sarah pulled a recorder from her coat pocket and hit play. The earlier snippet echoed into the room, then she disappears. Like Daniels. Keller's face changed. In that moment, Glenn and Dave burst through the side door. The man in the windbreaker reached into his jacket but stopped when he saw Dave's raised hand holding a taser. "Try it," Dave said. "I dare you." The tension broke. Keller and Danica froze. Sarah pulled out a folded manila envelope and dropped it on the table. Inside were printed documents, copies of the fraud, the drone surveillance licenses, the falsified board votes, everything. "Tomorrow, every media outlet from here to DC gets this," Sarah said, "unless you resign, publicly, and return every cent you stole." "And if we don't?" Danica asked. "We've already drained the HOA," Glenn said. Stepping forward, pulled all the reserve cash into a class action trust. Legally, voted on it. "We have quorum. You're finished." For the first time, Keller looked scared. Sarah turned to go. "Oh, and one more thing," she said. "You didn't have just one mall. You had 5. The neighborhood was never yours." She walked out into the night, heart pounding, knowing the end was near. But not yet. The next morning was war. Before sunrise, a printed packet appeared on every doorstep in Crestwood. No postage, no envelope. Just bold red text across the front page. "You've been lied to, and we can prove it." Inside were bank records, screenshots of fraudulent violations, drone tracking logs, and photos of Brent Keller's other lives, his previous cons in Colorado and Arizona, laid bare for the whole neighborhood to see. By 9 a.m., the whole hotline went down, overloaded with calls demanding Keller's resignation. By noon, Channel 9 parked a news van near the clubhouse. Residents crowded the sidewalks holding homemade signs. "Not my HOA. Crestwood belongs to us. We want Keller out." The HOA building was locked tight, but no one could hide. "Not anymore." Keller made a single, desperate move, an emergency broadcast sent through the Crestwood app. His voice trembled behind a layer of forced calm. "There has been a coordinated effort to destabilize our governance. Please remain in your homes. The Crestwood HOA is investigating." The message cut off mid-sentence, because at that moment, Glenn and Marisol flipped the master server switch inside the building. The underground had secured a court order granting them access backed by the evidence Sarah delivered the night before. The HOA's power was gone. Literally, all digital enforcement systems collapsed. Cameras stopped recording. Drones stopped flying. Even the Fines app glitched into oblivion. One neighbor, an ex-IT tech, held up a fried circuit board like a trophy. "We just turned off Big Brother." Meanwhile, Sarah and Dave stood at the front steps of the Crestwood building with a camera crew. The anchor from Channel 9 turned to Sarah. "Can you confirm the reports of embezzlement and surveillance?" "Yes," she said, firm. Brent Keller used this HOA to funnel money into dummy corporations and enforce unlawful surveillance. But that ends today. The crowd erupted in cheers. Moments later, a black SUV peeled out from the rear alley of the HOA building. Danica Ray was behind the wheel. Brent Keller sat in the passenger seat, sunglasses on, face pale. They didn't get far. Glenn, already on the radio, called in the sheriff, who'd been waiting nearby with an arrest warrant. The SUV was pulled over 2 blocks down. Both were handcuffed on the curb in front of stunned onlookers. Keller didn't say a word. He didn't have to. The neighborhood had already spoken for him. Back at the community center, Marisol led an emergency town hall. It was standing room. Only papers rustled. Cameras flashed, effective immediately, she announced. "The fraudulent board is dissolved. Crestwood HOA is entering community receivership under a transitional oversight committee." She looked at Sarah. "And we like Sarah Knox to lead it." Sarah hesitated, then nodded. She wasn't looking for power, just peace, justice. But If this was the only way to protect the neighborhood from vultures like Keller, she would see it through. Just as she stepped up to the podium, a man in a dark suit at the back of the room turned and walked out quietly. No one recognized him, but he'd been watching. Sarah caught a glimpse of the name badge clipped to his belt. DG, Federal Infrastructure Liaison. Her blood ran cold. Keller was just a piece of something much bigger. Sarah's heart pounded. As the man with the badge disappeared down the hall, DG, she whispered to herself. The same initials signed on the emails. The same shadow that had loomed over every dark corner of Crestwood. The room buzzed with nervous excitement, but Sarah knew the real fight was only just beginning. That night, after the meeting, she sat with Dave and Marisol, piecing together the puzzle. DG wasn't just a liaison. He was a controller, a puppet master behind the scenes, pulling strings in HOA letters across the country, orchestrating schemes far beyond Crestwood. The fake HOA board, the drone surveillance, the shell companies, none of it was random. It was part of a coordinated effort to privatize neighborhoods, squeeze residents for profit, and silence dissent. Crestwood was just the first test. The whistleblower had been right. Keller was panicking because he knew the federal eyes were watching, but those eyes belonged to DG and his network. We need proof, Sarah said. Hard evidence we can hand over to the authorities. They turned back to the flash drive. The files inside contained so much more than Sarah initially thought. Hidden among the financial records were encrypted folders. With Marisol's paralegal skills and Dave's tech know-how, they cracked the codes. Inside were plans, maps, lists of communities targeted for conversion into what Keller called managed residential ecosystems, and a chilling email thread between Keller and DG. Phase 2 begins in 3 weeks. The Crestwood model will be the blueprint for nationwide rollout. Make sure the locals are subdued. No leaks. The drones are essential. Surveillance is control. Sarah's hands trembled. This goes way beyond HOA politics, Dave said. This is a shadow network manipulating people's lives. They worked through the night, compiling everything into a dossier. The next morning, Sarah contacted a trusted investigative journalist at a national news outlet. Within hours, the story broke like a bombshell. Headlines screamed, "Secret federal network uses HOA letters to control neighborhoods, surveillance, fraud." And private militarization exposed. The nation watched as Crestwood became the epicenter of a fight for civil rights and privacy. Federal agents swooped in to arrest DG, who had been coordinating from a remote government facility. The fake HOA boards, all disbanded. The drone surveillance program shut down. And the shell companies frozen pending investigation. But the victory came at a cost. Keller's associates struck back in the shadows, vandalizing lawns and spreading false rumors to scare the neighborhood. Threatening messages arrived by mail and anonymously posted online. Sarah stood firm. We won't be intimidated, she told the community at the first official town meeting since the scandal. This is our home, our rights, and we will protect them. The neighbors rallied, installing community patrols, securing communication lines, and electing a transparent, resident-led HOA. Months later, Crestwood's pool was refilled, the lawn, chairs returned, and families laughed again under the summer sun. But beneath the calm, Sarah kept a watchful eye on the horizon, because while the shadow network was dismantled for now, its roots were deep, and its reach was long, and the next battle might be closer than anyone imagined. The end.